Take two. Hi, welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology with Louise Edington, the Wisdom Weaver and Cyberpunk Priestess to the Stars. And today I'm here to talk about the first eclipse. And if you wonder what I'm wearing, I'm going to the gym. I'm wearing one of my blood donor t-shirts. Well, platelet donor. I've done that twice. It really takes forever, but hey, it's a good thing to do. Anyway, so we are heading into the eclipses. And so I'm going to talk about what eclipses are and this particular eclipse as well. And as usual, I've pulled two cards, but I'd like you to check the description below. My series workshop is on March 21st, 22nd. It's a real series reborn immersion. And we do have an early bird price and payment plans if you get in nice and early. So check out the details in the link in the description. I'm excited to offer that and build on the work that of my book. Also, I was interviewed on Monday about the upcoming Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and that video is released this afternoon, and you'll find a link to get tomorrow, I think actually. You'll find a link to get early access to that video in the description too. And I also would like to just mention that I've consolidated my Spiral Weave membership into my private community portal. I will no longer be offering subscriptions on YouTube and Substack. It's going to take a while to completely shift it over because of current subscriptions, but that's okay. But if you would like to join either of those memberships, you can find the Spiral Weave is the light touch one, and the Spiral Codex is the much deeper one. I just actually added today what I'm calling, I can't even remember already what I'm calling it. Now I've got it written down, is Spiral Signals, daily Spiral Signals, short audio broadcast uploaded that gives you the energy of the day. And that's only going to be available to both memberships. All right, let's go on with the eclipses. So I'll give you a glimpse of the two cards I pulled, and they're very similar in energy, really. So the moon in the tarot, the Spiral Weave tarot. Oh, sorry, the Red Threads tarot, and Psyche. They both have very similar energy, so we'll look in detail at the cards later on. But first of all, let me kind of talk a little bit about what are solar eclipses, because this first eclipse on February the 17th, it's a doozy. But it's a solar eclipse, which means we're in the no moon phase, the new moon. And what happens in a solar new moon eclipse is that the moon goes over the face of the sun. This eclipse is what's called an annular eclipse, which means that the moon is quite close to Earth, so it doesn't fully cover the face of the sun from our perspective, giving it this ring of fire perspective, which is pretty powerful in and of itself. Now, this eclipse is really only visible down over Antarctica, which kind of worries me a little bit about the ice shelf down there, but I guess we'll see about that. But that doesn't mean that the energy is not there. So solar eclipses really are potent new moons that act as cosmic catalysts for major life shifts, sudden turning points, and new beginnings. They happen about every 6 months, and they really often force a recalibration of life paths, bringing unexpected, fated events that break down old stagnant patterns to help us align with our true purpose. And of course, this affects us all individually, but also collectively. So what do new moon solar eclipses often bring? Accelerated new beginnings, speed, right? They signal the initiation of new chapters in personal life. That could be, a career change or a new relationship or shift in personal identity, but put that out to the collective as well. It often brings what you might describe as destined events. It's things that feel fated. And really, they're kind of events that are beyond conscious, immediate control, but that means it's all about how you respond to them, right? But you know, when people hear fated events, people go, oh, sometimes those fated events are wonderful, sometimes they are less so. Areas of influence for you. The house in your natal chart where the eclipse falls indicates the area of life, and also if the eclipse aspects anything in your chart, it will make it super potent as well. So this, as the moon covers the face of the sun, it represents a temporary darkening of consciousness, which is the ego or sun, followed by a powerful illuminated breakthrough, the new vision or the moon. But as it's an annular eclipse, it's got that fiery kind of feel to it, to my mind. But anyway, they are a reset. They kind of look at them as a cosmic clear out. You know, eclipses can pass you by pretty, if you've got nothing aspected in your chart, they can really kind of seem like nothing. But eclipses do make a big difference. We saw that from like the Great American Eclipse in 2017 that split the country in half, and various other eclipses, literally bringing the separation. But it's how we respond and work with them. And this eclipse happens to be on the US moon. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I think we can see how things are playing out in the USA. But this one is more a general one. So Kathy and I will look at the eclipse, I think, in the US chart a bit nearer, probably next week. Okay. So this is the solar annular eclipse chart set for Washington, D.C. So you can see this, speaking of the USA, not only is this eclipse on the US moon, the rising sign is 28 Aquarius as well. So this eclipse is huge for the USA. But again, we'll go back to that later. So this, and it's on the ascendant, by the way, no matter which house system you use. So ignoring what we're saying about the USA, other than the fact the midheaven is also on the ascendant of the USA. So this eclipse, massive for the USA. I think it's a good one, but we'll see. So anyway, features of this eclipse. It's at 28 degrees Aquarius. This is actually the 6th of 7 new moons at 28 degrees. We had the first one way back in October, I think. Let me quickly check that. Of 2025. And that happened to be, no, in October, right after the eclipses. Okay, we had a 28-degree new moon in October. And this is the 6th. So this has taken us right from the end of the last eclipses through to this one. And we'll have one more new moon at 28 degrees, which happens to be the Pisces new moon a month after this. So these 28 degrees are very impactful. And 28 is 2 plus 8 is 10 equals a 1, which is a new beginning as well. And it's a solar eclipse. So this series of new moons, and this one being an eclipse at 28 degrees, is really bringing some big endings and new beginnings, because often we have to have endings to have new beginnings. But the 28 signifies powerful leadership, ambition, independence, blending the cooperative nature of the number 2, which is the moon, can't make this stuff up, with the strength and authority of the number 8, which happens to be related to Saturn. I'll come back to that later. But it reduces it to the pioneering solar energy of the number 1 in numerology. So, this is kind of wild, all this timing, to be quite honest. So other things I'm going to look at on this new moon are the aspects to it. The main aspect is a square to Uranus, which has just stationed direct on February the 3rd, but is still at the degree of its station, but not quite moved. And I will mention as well, though, that things that are really important to my mind on this new moon are that Venus literally emerges or moves more than 10 degrees away from the sun right before this eclipse. She's 2 minutes, 10 degrees and 2 minutes past the sun on this eclipse, and she emerges or goes back online after being hidden under the beams of the sun for a long time. She's going to emerge as evening star. Now, where you actually see it will depend on where you are, but this is the official astrological. She emerges and goes back online conjunct the North Node at 8 degrees of Pisces, which is kind of wild because there's that 8 again of strength and infinity and so on. So, you know, that's wild. Also, what's wild about this eclipse is that 3 days after the eclipse, Saturn and Neptune finally meet at 0 Aries. As you can see here, they are just 15 minutes from their exact conjunction. And this is the first conjunction at this degree for 3 astrological ages, for about over 6,300 years. I talked about that in my interview with another astrologer, and I'm blanking on names, and I'll put the link below so you can see that. And that's a world point. So that's a new beginning as well. So head exploding. And then I think it's worth mentioning as well that Mars is just about to formally go online. The sun is about to move more than 10 degrees away from Mars. And Mars meets Vesta, which is both our sacred inner flame, but also the flame of the state. And Mars and Vesta meet in Aquarius, also at a 1. 9 plus 1 is 10 equals 1, another new beginning. And conjunctions are new beginnings also. They're beginning of a new cycle. So we've got this new cycle beginning, this new cycle beginning, this new cycle beginning, this new cycle beginning. Wild. It's kind of crazy. So I'm going to stop the share and just talk about what this eclipse means from my perspective. So it's an Aquarius eclipse, and Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian, and it's the sign of the collective. It's also the sign of the future and of innovation, innovative ideas. Uranus is the modern guide for the sign of Aquarius. Saturn is the traditional guide, and we see that both of those are involved in this eclipse. And Saturn and Uranus are both boundaries and breaking the bounds, break the man-made rules, and liberation from those. So we can see this tug of war, but I think that both of these working together on this eclipse are bringing us a really new beginning after we're witnessing the breakdown of the old order, if you like, or empire, or the end of empire, whatever you want to call it. Everything's pointing to these things. Does that mean it's going to happen overnight? No, but this eclipse is an enormous step away from what we've been living towards what we are going to create and co-create together. Uranus is almost exactly square this eclipse, and Uranus is still at 27 Taurus, and 27 degrees is the moon of the USA, and the moon in a country chart represents the people. Take from that what you will, but I think the people are going to rise up. But I do see that happening everywhere too, against the rising authoritarianism, which is the shadow side of Aquarius. Aquarius can be quite a dogmatic, authoritarian sign. But one thing that encourages me that is not going to stick is this square to Uranus, which is really still pretty much stationed. It's still at the same degree. It's not at such the potent point because it's actually 2 weeks after it's stationed direct, but it's still at the degree. And having this new moon and an eclipse square the guide for the sign it's in is huge. And Uranus is the great liberator, but it can do so sometimes through sudden breaks, shocks, earthquakey type of events. So we may see even more earthquakey type events than we're already seeing in the world. Okay. And some of them are shaking people to their core, but that's to wake us up. Uranus is also the great awakener. Okay. So, and incidentally, Uranus is also in Venus sign. And here we have Venus emerging from the underworld as evening star goddess, which is kind of more the love goddess energy of Venus, the more peaceful energy of Venus. And she emerges from the underworld conjunct the North Node in Pisces, asking us to create a world that is more bringing the inside of intuition down into the Virgo to create meaningful work in the world. Virgo being the South Node, of course. You know, you can almost not make this up, how these planets are dancing together. I might go back to the chart again in a minute just to say one thing. But, you know, we've been on this journey of Pisces, Virgo, eclipses, and now we're about to change into Leo, Aquarius eclipses over the next couple of years. But this one still has the nodes in Pisces, Virgo. And it's saying we are finishing up learning how to bring this intuition, this energy of interconnectedness and agape love, you could say, but to bring it down to that Virgo South Node. And instead of trying to live by the old kind of systems and rules, which is very kind of Virgo, is to move into that sense of bringing it down into more meaningful and useful work in the world. Always tuning into what you know and your intuition and your inner knowing. Okay. Also, I mentioned that Virgo and Vesta are together at 19 Aquarius. This just adds to the eclipse in my estimation. This Mars is our will and action. Mars is the modern guide for Aries, where the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is, and I will look at that in a minute. and it's again the start of a new cycle, and it's conjunct Vesta. So it's the start of tuning into your inner flame to vision what you want to create for the future, but it's also a beginning for the state, or in all its forms, you know, not just the USA. Believe me, this is like the world order, new beginnings. We are coming into a new paradigm in all its ways, but we are experiencing this both inwardly and outwardly. And if you have pretty much anything in your chart around 28 degrees, around 19 degrees, around 18 degrees, and 0 degrees, you're going to be affected by this eclipse. And I'm going to suggest that that's probably pretty much everybody. I have direct aspect to all these things, and boy, do I feel it. Okay. But it's really a time of stepping into your autonomy, which is why I wrote that new ebook. Well, it was actually an edited thing from a small ebook I created many years ago. I was inspired to rename it and recreate it, and you can get that by going to my website, louiseedington.com, and giving me your name and email address to go on my newsletter list, and you get the free ebook. I've already had amazing feedback about it, but this was pretty channeled as well to go to using your intuition kind of thing. And then the next new beginning, just 3 days after this new moon eclipse, this reset, which is really, you know, if I look at the conjunction, excuse me while I do, I should have looked at this before. is South Saturn. Astrologers have been waiting for this conjunction for a long time. So the actual conjunction is on February the 20th. And by that time, the sun has moved 10 degrees past Mars. So Mars is back online. And I can't remember what else I was going to look at. By that time, oh yeah, the moon has moved into Aries and is now 40 degrees after the sun. So the sun is starting to gain light after the eclipse, and we are starting to really feel the pull of the new. And then we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Now, they are huge in and of themselves, but this is the first one to happen at that degree since 4,300 and something BCE. I talked about it on the interview with Marina Ormes, that's her name, I will share. And Astrology Heals is her YouTube channel. I think they will also go out on that after the early access, so choose how soon you want to hear it. If you're listening to this when I record this on February the 5th, you might want to go and put your email in for her and get the recording, because I looked at this and I figured out, with the help of a client who I credit in the interview, is that the last 0 degree Saturn-Neptune conjunction happened 3 ages ago, 3 astrological ages ago. And then if we look at the astrological ages from a big perspective, from the Hindu Yugas, from the Hopi ages, from the Mayans, from many, many cosmologies, we are at the end of a real descending yuga or time period of falling into, showing us the worst of humanity and so on. And we are about to enter this new period, which is described as a more golden age. Of course, things have to keep shaking out a bit more. There's usually a transition period, but I honestly feel like we're right. I've talked about the birth canal so long, and I'm going to go back to the chart for a minute. What's happening here is this transition from the end of the zodiac to the beginning of the zodiac, because after this eclipse, everything will start moving further and further forward. Okay, we'll have a new moon at 28 degrees Pisces right at the end of the zodiac, and then more planets will move into Aries. By April, when Uranus moves into Gemini finally for 7 years, and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto start really speaking to each other again, that peaks around July time, we are going to be entering something we have never experienced before, because the great age that we are leaving is about 25,000 to 26,000 years old. Nobody agrees exactly how long it is, right? And so what a time. And so we are near the end of it. I believe this shift really began back in the late 18th century when Uranus was discovered, but other astrologers have different theories. I don't think it really matters. In the big scheme of 26,000-ish years, about 250 years is small fry, right? So let's not argue over exact dates. It's a transition, and this is huge. Okay, so as you will see when the videos, as I go forward and onwards, these new cycles are beginning, cycles are ending. After this, that Pluto will stay in Aquarius, kind of helping us to step into our collective power, I believe. I see Pluto often as digging out where we've given away our power and helping us to step into our own power. But after that, all of these planets and planetary bodies, yes, I know I use a lot of extra ones, will keep moving out of these last 2 signs of the zodiac into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. But this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, pretty much on the eclipse, is saying, what a new beginning. So many cycles ending, so many cycles beginning. Venus on the North Node, that's the start of another cycle. Venus likes being in Pisces, but she's saying also, let go of some of our old beliefs and step into some new beliefs. These stories keep getting repeated over and over again. So I'm not going to go over every flipping aspect on this chart. I try and break it down on my weekly forecasts as well in more detail. But I do want to mention asteroid Lilith. She was she's the asteroid, the only physical rock of the versions of Lilith, who was the original divine feminine, if you like, but archetypally. And she is there, conjunct this Saturn-Neptune, but really she is here at the point of the last Venus star point, the last retrograde Venus star point, early in March last year, March 21st, I think it was. That was at 2 Aries, when she became morning star, warrior goddess, fighting for women's rights, fighting for our values. Now she is going to enter that evening star, more receptive phase, and saying, let's integrate this. Let's integrate what we've been learning as we enter this new paradigm. So let me first do the Sabian symbols quickly and the Chandra symbols, and then read the cards for you. I really do not want to go too long on this, A, because I have to get to the gym, and B, because sometimes my videos go too long. But you cannot make it up for this, the Sabian symbol, for this degree. So as always, we go up. So from 28 Aquarius, we go to 29. It's a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. And James Burgess says, shifting our spiritual level. He says this is about shifting your spiritual level up a notch. He said there is much knowledge to be gained in normal life for the spiritual aspirant, but it is not enough to take us the whole way. To master the circle of life with its cycles and evolutionary changes, it's a necessary condition, but it's not sufficient. We need to undertake the further step of commitment to a path of guidance where we are shown what otherwise we could not see by ourselves. Spiritual initiation is a particular event that occurs between a guide and a disciple. Only I'm going to say the planets are guiding this one, right? You do not need to go and get a guru. You can download my book, which is also related to a 7-step initiation process, right? It feels like where all my work has been coming together. Okay. And so sacredness, vows, and a fundamental shift of perspective. But to my mind, that perspective is knowing that it's all within you. It has a magical quality and an alchemical effect. The disciple, inner self, is transformed on the inner planes and so undergoes a metamorphosis. And the cards speak to that too. So now quickly the Chandra symbol. Okay. And the Omega. I will look at both for 29 Aquarius. What a time we're in. And I'm not going to say I still won't need to be doing this for quite some time, because this is going to take a while to shake out, but I can see the change starting to happen, by the way. Anyway, so the Omega symbol, he says, is a transformational one and a responsibility one, which is very Saturn as well. I was going to say something else about Saturn that I've clearly forgotten, but sorry. An old poetess eating green melon in a shady garden. The old poetess is the wise woman, which is Saturn, really. Saturn is the wise woman, okay, who through the magic of her poems expresses the mysteries of the universe. In the gentle, protected sanctuary of the shaded garden, she renews her inspiration through taking into her the ripeness and fullness of nature. This degree is about attuning to the ancient feminine wisdom within and allowing it to find the intimate connection with the elemental kingdoms that nourish it. And the Chandra symbol is the sound of water echoes through a great stone room. Present here is an amplified sensitivity to the flow of emotion and the ability to perceive all the subtleties and complexities of feeling moving through both self and others. The stone room provides a sanctum which shuts out the outer world so that one's listening to the voice of the water may become focused and acute. And here we go to the cards, which are both related to water. But incidentally, in the You Cannot Make This Up, asteroid Psyche, I thought I would look it up for this card, is at 12 Gemini for the eclipse on my moon. And opposing the US ascendant, by the way. And also, I did look up where Samali, which is the moon, and she's at 16 Leo. So she is squaring some of this fixed energy on the eclipse as well, by the way. Most notably Mars and Vesta. But don't get too tied up in that. Anybody who just wants that more detail, I just had to look them up. Anyway, the moon card is Semele, S-E-M-E-L-E. And this is I am intuition. Put your thoughts to sleep. Do not let them cast a shadow over the moon of your heart. Let go of thinking in the dark moon. So the book actually says, on a dark moonless night, look up and know yourself. Because the moon will strongly enhance your intuition. Trust it, work with your dreams, and write them down for you to reflect on. And then Psyche. I've never pulled this card before. Incidentally, though, just one other quick aside. Psyche is card number 10. So another one, new beginning. Nobody runs into the arms of change. Here we go. With mad, passionate delight, yelling, pick me, and yet without change there is no growth. And since no growth comes from comfort, you might as well get used to being uncomfortable. The caterpillar has a complete meltdown, literally inside its chrysalis. The cells of the mushy substance known as imago cells are no longer caterpillar cells, but they are not yet butterfly cells. You might say imago cells, represent a third creature, one that doesn't know what it is yet, one that is unbecoming and becoming at the same time, carrying the imago of what it might yet be when it emerges. And of course, we saw that in the Sabian symbol, right? A witch, woman in total control of herself, must get comfortable in her chrysalis and make friends with not knowing. This is the only place where her new wings are grown, along with the new image of what she can be in the world. It's okay to not know. In fact, it's glorious. Embrace the messy mush of cells your current reality has gifted you. Somewhere between unbecoming and becoming, your wings are growing, and the imago containing who you can be is embracing its color, radiance, and vitality. Oh, can you believe how everything kind of came together? And I honestly shuffled and pulled these cards. It always happens that way. You are becoming, but we are right on this eclipse. We are really in that chrysalis right now, in a dark moon and a reset and a new beginning. A new cycle is emerging, and it's time to start growing those new wings individually and collectively. I love you. See you next time. Check out the links, check out my series workshop, etc. I'm excited to be offering this immersion. It's going to be great. And we will be looking at people's charts in it too. Bye.